Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for our Tuscany LiveAway pre-trip webinar. We're going to get started in about just over a minute's time. There's just a couple of us joining the webinar because our group is small anyway. So this will be a very quick one. So just bear with us for about a minute. Good morning, Joan and Marcy. Nice to have you with us this morning. I think Paula should be joining us in just a moment. And then we'll see if anybody else from those that are already in Europe will join us as well. Otherwise, we will carry on. I know that Diana could not attend today. Raymond, let's see who's coming. Dun, 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 dun. Just under a minute to go and we'll get started. All right, so Joan's here. Marcy is here. And so Diana is not able to attend. Danielle and Raymond are in Sicily already, so it might just be a couple of us. Anyway, we'll wait about another 30 seconds and see if anybody else joins. Otherwise, we will get started and run through this quickly so you're ready for our trip to Florence in just over a month's time. It's coming up fast. You must be excited. I know I'm excited. I'm always excited to go to Florence. One of the best cities. One of my favorite cities in Europe. Let's see. I think Paul is going to join us as well. So just bear with us for just another. I'll wait till 12:01, and then we'll get started. If nobody else joins us, let's check with Paula. Okay. There's Paula. There's Paula.
Sorry.
We're just waiting for you. Okay, it's 12:01. We just have two of our group on, but I know that Diana emailed me that she wasn't able to attend, so she's going to watch the replay. I know that Raymond and Danielle and Raymond are in Sicily. Sorry, I had a brain fart there for a moment, and that leaves Judith. So, but anyway, I'm sure Joan, you can maybe fill her in, right? Because I think, yeah. Okay, so let's get started. We'll make this quick. We won't keep too much of your time, so you can go out and play in the snow. So this is all about Tuscany, where we're headed in just over a month's time. So really, the main thing is for you to ask any questions that you might have in getting ready for the trip. So I'm going to briefly cover pre-trip preparation, what's going to happen with your arrival in Florence, and I'll touch on a couple of things from the itinerary, and that's it. So as far as documents are concerned, it's a good time, a month away. Make sure everything's in order. You know where your passport is, that it's up to date, or that it's still valid. I think we probably would have caught that if. So I think we're probably all good in that department. Yeah, good idea to look through all of the information that you've received from us. The only thing that you're probably missing is the excursions confirmation, which will be sent to you as soon as Elsa returns from holiday, so next week. We aren't going to be able to run all the excursions because the most important thing about this group is that it's quite a small group. There are only 6 members participating. Is that right, Paula? Did I count that right? 2, 4, 6. Yeah, 6 members plus me, and 2 of those members are leaving after the first week because they're on a very extended trip. So they got special permission to leave after a week, and I'm going to be leaving with them. because we're headed off on the next adventure. So it's a small group, but we're going to have a great time, particularly with our guide Angela in Florence, who is really amazing, super knowledgeable, a lot of fun. So anyway, what to pack? It is spring in Italy, which could mean anything because weather is unpredictable anywhere these days. Generally, I was in Tuscany in Florence at exactly the same time last year. It was, I would say, for the most part, a little bit warmer than we expected. So the weather is sort of in the low 20s. It could be cooler. So if you look at what they say is the average trend for mid-April in Florence, they say that the weather will be in the high teens. So I'd say that's what's average. It's cooler in the evening. Yeah, dress for, whatever that is, June in Canada, maybe May. So they're definitely at least a month ahead of us in terms of weather, or if not more. And so you need to have a little bit of everything. Our trips, as you know, are mostly informal. That being said, Italy is one place where people dress well. I mean, the Italians dress well. And so we are definitely going to go to a couple of nicer restaurants. And so I always say, dress to impress is probably too strong of a word, but you don't want to look like a tourist is what I'm trying to say. So, wear something nice. The most important thing, as with all of our trips, is footwear, because definitely you don't want to be wearing anything other than flats for women, because it's a lot of cobblestone streets in Florence. And so, and we do quite a bit of walking on this trip. Florence is all about walking. There is a local bus system. We'll show you that. Nobody has used it, to my knowledge. I think that if anybody was like wanting to come from further away, from Piazza Michelangelo or someplace, probably just splurge and take a taxi, because it's easier. But so a lot of walking in and around Florence. Other than that, there isn't anything in particular that that you should remember on as far as attire is concerned. Obviously, an adapter plug is important. We always say this. Grab one you can get them at the dollar store even. Adequate charging cables. Make sure you have all the ones that you need. Because all this stuff you can certainly get there, but it's just harder to find, and being a touristy town, you just pay through the nose for stuff like that. So you might as well make sure you have an inventory of all of that. Don't forget to carry any prescription medication that you have. Anything that's really essential, please do put it in your carry-on luggage, because the airlines are still consistently losing luggage. And because you have to take a connecting flight to get to Florence, you don't want to forget it. You don't want to be stuck missing something if your luggage does end up getting delayed. So that's important to remember. Other than that, if you are joining us, I want to talk about Cinque Terre in a minute, because that's one of the excursions that we were not quite sure, because only a couple people signed up for it, but we'll come to that. And that's on the water. Otherwise, if you're going to do a side trip to Siena or someplace where there might be sort of windy roads and stuff, if you are susceptible to motion sickness, that's never a bad idea to have as well. But otherwise, pretty standard trip. So there's nothing too much other than other things that we might have mentioned in the pre-trip information document. I always say another good thing is sunscreen. It's really good to wear, because you don't really think about it in the city, but the sun can be quite strong already, even in April. And so, if you're out even just on a city tour, you can get sun, and we sometimes don't think about that. So keep that in mind. Currency, of course, in Italy is the euro. I say this time and time again, but I'll repeat it. I don't recommend trying to buy euros in Canada. You'll get a terrible exchange rate. and your local bank generally just doesn't stock them. So you can get euros from ATMs anywhere when you arrive. And that being said, we do recommend the Wise card. And I know some of our members that are here with me in Malta and have traveled with me over the last few weeks have said how much they love this card because it's a multi-currency, like a prepaid credit debit card. So it's basically use it like a Visa or like your bank card. You can tap it just about anywhere in Europe, and it keeps track of what you spend and on your app, and you can exchange. You get the best exchange rates than you'll get certainly from any bank in Canada. So it's just a very practical thing to have, and you can get that card by looking at that section of currency and money in the pre-trip information document. It's there. Okay, Marcy, take care. Watch the rest of the recording later, no problem. Anyway, and finally, the Telegram app, which we also put a link in our pre-trip document. Please do download that. And if you're not so super, tech savvy or whatever, get some help from somebody in your family, a member of the family or something like that, or somebody who's a little bit more adept, so that I'll send you an invitation. So once you've downloaded it, you'll find the link in that pre-trip information document so that you can connect with me right away. And that's going to be our tool for staying in touch with one another along the way. So going up to arrival date, as I say, a month from now, just before you leave, just double check that everything is in order with the airline. I mean, they will let you know, generally speaking, if there's going to be a delay, but it's always a good idea to double check. And if you expect to be delayed such that your arrival in Florence will be impacted. So in other words, if your flight leaves so that you will miss a connection or something like that, it's happened on every single trip so far that somebody has missed a connection, then please pay attention to the email address delays@wheelandanchor.ca. Once again, in your pre-trip information document. As soon as you know, please let us know so that we can readjust the transfer, because if we don't let them know and the guy's sitting there for hours and hours, then we lose that transfer. So that's really important, not to mention that we lose you and we want to know where you're at. So obviously this trip is, you can ignore the Cortona portion because we are only in Florence. That's going to be our base for the 2 weeks of time. And as I mentioned, we are a small group of 6 people at the beginning and only 4 after the first week. And we're going to be doing a bunch of different things in and around Florence. You could easily spend, you will find that the time goes by super quickly in Florence. There are so many things to check out. I think I could live in Florence. It's a great city for walking, museums and galleries and the hillsides around. So beyond what we're offering in terms of excursions, there's a million other things to do, and I'll be telling you all about it when we get there. And so just a few of the things to highlight. The Uffizi Gallery, I think everybody signed up for this one. We're going to be going towards the end of the trip with a guided tour by Angela, to see some of the great Italian and other masters from that era. It is a guided tour of the Uffizi is absolutely a highlight of any trip to Florence. Similarly, I think everybody signed up for the Medici family. The Medici, of course, were, some say the founders of money, or at least the financial system as we know it today. And that's really evidenced by the extravagant palaces and other buildings that they have in Florence. So you're going to get some great insight on that. And Angela tells some terrific stories all about the Medici, and that I believe is happening on April the 28th. And again, the full calendar will be issued as soon as Elsa is back from holidays, so next week. And I know that a few people signed up for the culinary tour. Regardless if you signed up for our tour, which is of course a great way to understand a little bit about the cuisine of Tuscany and Florence. But we will visit and point you in the direction of a whole bunch of good restaurants, which are not in the tourist area of Florence. And I'll point that out again right away on the first day on our orientation tour, where to eat, or what part of town and where not to eat. for the best food in Florence. Talking about food, I believe we are going to be making a side trip up to Bologna. It's only about 40 minutes away by high-speed rail. And Bologna is really the food capital of central Italy. But as well as it's a beautiful university town known for all of its streets with the porticos, like you see, like you see there. So we'll go around learning a little bit about this city that you wouldn't otherwise think to visit. You know, a lot of people visit Italy, go around Tuscany, but they skip Bologna, which I think is a mistake, because it's every time we've been, we've had a grand time. And we taste our way through because they have all kinds of specialties that originate from this city. Now, Cinque Terre, and I know that we've only got Joan left on the webinar, but the others will be watching the replay, hopefully. So at the moment, we only have a couple people that indicated that they wanted to go to Cinque Terre. And so I'm asking everybody to reconsider. And so as follows, the trip that we had put in the program, we decided after our first trip last year that we would only do Cinque Terre by private boat, because Cinque Terre is spectacularly beautiful, but it is most beautiful to look at rather than be in. And it, you know, it is charming inside, but it's very touristy, particularly at this time of the year when we're going, which is immediately following Easter. It's a very, very busy time of the year in Cinque Terre. And so the trip that we normally do, we have to have 7 or 8 people, which is more than we have in our group, to be able to go on the private boat. Otherwise, it's just prohibitively expensive. It's already expensive. And so consider going. And so there's 2 ways that we can do it. We can go and we can just visit all of the towns by train, because there is a train that goes, you know, inside the mountain, a tunnel that connects all 5 towns in Cinque Terre. And we can do part of it as well by the local public ferry that connects one to the next, which is obviously weather permitting. And if the seas are rough, then the ferry doesn't run, but you can still always do it by train. And so there is also another boat trip that we can do. So the whole thing will probably still cost a couple of $100, $250 or so, depending on who's interested. So I will email everybody as well, just to check on that. Oh, I see Danielle just joined us. Good morning. And good afternoon, because of course you're here just across the pond. We were just you can Danielle watch the rest of the stuff from before, but you're already here, so you've already got what you've got in terms of preparing for the trip. And we were just discussing Cinque Terre and how I know that some of the group had indicated interest to go, and so we can go regardless with any number of people. But the private boat trip that we can do really only makes sense if we have at least 4 or 5, which is most of the group. So give it some thought. I will send an email out in the next week with the options on how we can visit Cinque Terre. We'll go by train. It's a fairly long trip because it's about a 2-hour train. It's more than 2 hours. It's almost 2.5 hours each way, but it's lovely to visit. It's quite a beautiful part of Italy. So as I say, watch out for that email, and we'll put together the best excursion possible for that. And then, of course, as I mentioned, we are a small group with 2 of our members that are leaving 1 week in, myself included, as we're off on another trip. But you'll be looked after. You'll have assistance from our local guide, Angela, who is really terrific for the balance of the trip. And I'm going to orient you and point you in the right direction, give you so many things to do that you're going to wish you stayed for 3 weeks. And then after that, you're going to be headed off either to return home or to continue off elsewhere in Europe, depending on what your arrangements are. And the good thing is, the only thing that we advise is that if you had the ArriveCan app from before, I don't think we have the slide in anymore. No, if we had the ArriveCan app before, keep it, because it also, you know, we have to go to those funny machines now to enter in the card that we used to fill in by hand, but you can use your ArriveCan app to pre-register your return, which enables you to make the whole process at the airport a bit quicker. So keep that in mind. That's the only thing that you need to know. And of course, we'll look out. I'll help you with your return flights and so on to make sure everything's all in order. But otherwise, there's nothing else to report or talk about. Yeah, good. So are there any questions at all about our trip in Florence? If you haven't been before, it's such a great city. I tell you, I could move there. So, but of course, if you don't have any questions now, you can drop a message to either myself as the host, or to Paula, or to info, and we'll get back to you and answer any of your questions. So I think that's it. I don't think there's any other questions. We keep it quick. So anyway, I'm looking forward very much to see you guys. Danielle, Raymond, I'll obviously be seeing you next week in Sicily. Joan will be seeing you when you arrive in Florence. And yeah, very excited to have you. Actually, no, Joan is coming with us to Amalfi already, right?
No. I believe so, yes.
Yes. So we'll see you in Amalfi, and then we'll all go together. Oh yeah, so we'll all be going together. Those of us who are in Sorrento with me for those 2 weeks, we're going to be going by train, in a reasonable schedule. So we'll leave around 9 in the morning, change in Naples, and I booked us some good seats on the Frecciarossa, which is a high-speed rail that gets us from Naples all the way up to Florence in about 3 hours. So we'll be there already early afternoon, and that's all looked after and taken care of. So you don't have to worry about any of that. We'll talk about that when we get to Sorrento. Good. Let's leave it there. If you need anything from us, of course, we're always here for you. And I'm so looking forward to traveling with you through Italy. And we'll catch you all very soon. Have a good day.